So I saw that the soybean farmers in the state of Arkansas are having a find out phase. And you know what I hate to say? I told you so. No, seriously, I'm really sick and tired of the fact that the left keeps having to say, I told you so. Because we didn't want anybody to suffer, okay? We voted for everybody to survive and thrive. And you voted for the suffering of other people, and here we are.
Arkansas farmers are taking their own lives because of what's happening to their farms because of Trump's policies. And it's only going to get worse for farmers because this is all laid out in Project 2025. So in Project 2025, the plan is to roll back all of the protections that farmers currently have access to.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for some fuck around and find out. We saw it in North Carolina and Texas when Trump massively cut FEMA. We saw it in Missouri when a Republican congressman was yelled at by his own constituents to get his head out of Trump's ass. Well, now it's time for Fuck Around and Find Out, the Farmers Edition, specifically Arkansas.
Now, I've never been as worried as I am now about whether or not my kids and grandkids will be able to carry on.
He said, I love you, Mr. Trump. I need to see the fruit of your love.
What it costs for us to farm is astronomical now.
I farm with paid-for equipment. All my tractors are 50 years old, and I can't hardly make this deal work. I think the tariffs are the ice cream on the cake of a perfect storm.
After a horrible year last year where most farmers in Arkansas Delta lost money, this year's going to be worse.
We made a decision to go out this year, in the spring. So my son will not be the seventh generation on our farm.
We're going to lose 25 or 30% of the farmers in this country if they don't do something. It has to be done, and it's not just here. It's everywhere.
Now I know not everybody in Arkansas is a Republican or a MAGA voter. But remember, Kankles McTaco Tits won that state by nearly 30 points. So the majority of people in Arkansas voted for this. And now these farmers, many of which have been farmers for several generations in their family, are finding that due to climate issues, deregulation, Trump's tariffs, and immigration crackdowns, they are losing a good 30% of their crops. And this is affecting farmers in many negative ways. The biggest one is that the largest agricultural export of ours is soybeans, and now it's at a 20-year low. But the sad thing is that a lot of these people still voted for him in November, even though he already did this to them once. In Trump's first term, he fucked over the farmers so badly, he had to issue $32 billion in bailouts. Only now he's telling them, suck it up, loser. And the hilarious part about this is, remember when Mike Johnson and the other Republicans in Congress were saying, you know, we need you guys to come out and vote in the midterms because if there are Democrats get control of Congress, Trump might get impeached again. That's now starting to work against them because all the people who are turning against Donald Trump are now using that as an encouragement to come out and vote so he does get impeached again.
Can we just talk for a minute about the Arkansas soybean farmers? Arkansas voted 2/3 for Trump. Trump had promised to implement tariffs. Trump then implemented those tariffs. China has retaliated, and because our soybeans, the tariff war made our soybeans too expensive, they decided to buy their soybeans from Brazil, signed 20-year contracts with Brazil, and now for a generation, the Arkansas soybean farmers are screwed because they lost their biggest soybean customer. And they are demanding compensation. Demanding. I mean, I almost admire it. I almost admire the audacity. But they said they don't really like taking government handouts, but, you know, they really don't have a choice. And they are demanding that we compensate them.
To all my farmer neighbors, my name is Susie, and I live in rural Missouri. You were warned over and over and over. We told you there was no drag queen story hour. There were no furries in our school using litter boxes. But you guys refused to call the superintendent of the schools like I did. I called Rolla Public Schools and asked Dr. Dare if there was any truth to that. He laughed and said maybe I was watching too much TV. We told you that China signed 20-year contracts with Brazil for soybeans. You laughed in our face. I'm not going to say I told you so. But I do not want to bail you out for the next 20 years, and I will fight against it. China signed 20-year contracts with Brazil for soybeans because of Donald J. Trump. They don't want our soybeans. They don't want our beef. They don't want our wheat. They don't want anything we grow. As far as we're concerned, China can stick it up our ass. And can you blame them? Can you really blame them?
Are America's farmers still Trump's biggest supporters? Because he's putting that loyalty to the test. 78% of farmers voted for Donald Trump, but his tariff policy is hitting them harder than anyone. Corn, soybean, and wheat prices are sitting at their post-pandemic lows. Soybean sales, the worst they've been in 20 years, because China has not bought a single bushel since May as a function of China's reciprocal tariffs. Meanwhile, costs are exploding. Fertilizer, farmers' biggest expense, is up 35% this year from tariff pressure. And labor costs rising fast as immigration crackdowns shrink the workforce. Revenues melting, expenses surging. Trump's newest idea is taking some of the tariff revenue and bailing out the farmers. He also had to bail out the farmers in 2018 when China responded to his initial tariff policy. Can Trump maintain his most loyal supporters even though they wound up at the epicenter of his tariff skirmish? Let me know your thoughts, particularly if you're a farmer.
There's stories all over the internet about farmers going bankrupt across the country. And I want you to know, I want to feel sorry for you. I'm struggling. I'm struggling to care at all. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart, because typically I have empathy, but I'm really, really tired of telling you farmers and you people that are in rural parts of the United States, I'm tired of telling you what your vote does to you. Yeah, I mean, you guys in the red states, you keep doing the same thing over and over again, and you're broke. You don't have any money. West Virginia, Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, you get my point. You're broke. And yet you keep voting for the Republican Party that wants nothing to do with you. And farmers, guess what? You're included. But you keep voting red, and now you want me to feel sorry for you. I'm sorry. I just can't.
So let me get this straight. The farmers of Arkansas are asking the federal government for handouts, for checks, because they are struggling financially because of the tariffs and other policies of Donald Trump. They can't sell their soybeans and other goods into foreign countries like China because of the tariffs. They're now too expensive for them to be able to sell them into China because of the retaliatory tariffs. And they can't afford equipment. They can't afford the high rising prices of equipment because of other tariffs on goods and manufacturing and raw material and everything like that. And they are saying they have never seen it this bad. There was a farmer who's in his 39th season of farming, and he says he has never seen it this bad. He literally said, Donald Trump, you said you love us, but I'm not seeing the fruits of your love. What the fuck? Arkansas farmers, and they're saying, of course, it's affecting everywhere else. We saw Nebraska was having problems, facing bankruptcy. Farmers across this country are facing a huge pinch, and a lot of it has to do with Donald Trump and his policies. Well, you should have thought about that, farmers for Trump, when you went into the voting booth and places like Arkansas, Indiana, Iowa, Nebraska went ruby ass red in 2024 in November. You guys made your bed, you fucked around, and now you're finding out. So yeah, the fruits of Donald Trump's love are rotten pieces of shit. If you didn't know that going in, you know it now. So as your farm continues to struggle and you're looking for a socialist handout, why don't you try pulling yourself up by your bootstraps that you preach to everybody else about and do something about it? Because frankly, the rest of the country doesn't give a damn anymore. You should have thought about that before you sold the rest of us down the river.
Quick question for the farmers in Arkansas who are begging for government handouts. Weren't you the crowd that wanted to take away benefits from hungry school kids? Were you guys cheering on the end of USAID? Were you guys happy about WIC going away? Because you didn't think that people should be receiving government handouts. You were all like, pull yourselves up by your bootstraps. But now you feel entitled to government handouts? So socialism for me and not for thee? Do you even know how hypocritical that sounds? There's a saying my grandmother taught me, and it definitely applies to farmers in Arkansas. You reap what you sow, and what you sowed was hate. And now you are losing everything. I'm not happy about that. My step-grandparents were farmers. I grew up visiting a dairy farm every week. I know farmers work hard, but I also know farmers tend to be very stuck in old-fashioned thinking. And it's time for you to wake up. That's what we mean when we say woke. Wake up and see how your hate is actually negatively impacting not just the lives of other innocent people, but you. Do I think the government is going to actually come through and give farmers a handout? Probably. But should you take it when you've already denied those kinds of help to innocent school kids, starving kids overseas? I don't think so.
So are we all laughing at these farmers from Arkansas that had the fucking nerve to vote for Donald Trump, yet here they are asking for a government bailout because their fucking farms aren't making any money? No. They're in the fuck around and find out phase, and I really don't give a shit.
So I saw that the soybean farmers in the state of Arkansas are having a find out phase, and you know what I hate to say? I told you so. No, seriously, I'm really sick and tired of the fact that the left keeps having to say, I told you so, because we didn't want anybody to suffer, okay? We voted for everybody to survive and thrive, and you voted for the suffering of other people, and here we are. You are actually the one who is paying the price and suffering, because you can't sell your soybeans to China because what's that? Tariffs. You can't get that new farming equipment that you needed because of why? Tariffs. Didn't the experts tell you that? Didn't people warn you this would happen? But no, you let your internalized hate, racism, and misogyny override literal facts that were right there in front of your face that made you vote against your own best interests. And here you are, expecting a government bailout yet again. But you didn't want anybody else to get government bailouts. That's socialism, and you don't like that. So what makes you so different and so deserving when you voted against government money going to anybody who has stumbled upon a hard time? Why do you get it? What makes you better than other people? Again, I don't like that we are having to say, I told you so. Okay, I wanted you to do well. I wanted you to survive and thrive. But this is what you voted for.
Arkansas farmers are taking their own lives because of what's happening to their farms because of Trump's policies. And it's only going to get worse for farmers because this is all laid out in Project 2025. So in Project 2025, the plan is to roll back all of the protections that farmers currently have access to. Basically, there's different programs. There's insurance, crop insurance. There's these commodities programs. And most of these are either subsidized or paid for by the government. So farmers, if a small farm gets hit with, a weather disaster or something else happens where they can't profit off their crop like they usually do, they're backed up. They're safe. They can, float for another year because of these programs. They want to get rid of these programs. They want to take the burden of these programs off the government and put it back onto the farmers, meaning these small farms get hit with one disaster and they're fucked. They're done. Guess who won't be done, though, if they get hit with one disaster? Giant mega corporations, these huge corporate farms that have all the capital they need to float if they get hit with a disaster. They're not going to go under. What they're going to do is buy up all these little farms and consolidate them into these giant mega farms. That's what the plan is. And I know it's easy to be like, oh, fuck these farmers. They voted for this. This is what they get. But this isn't good for any of us if this happens. I know like the FAFO is delightful, but it isn't good for any of us. And it's scary. Like, these are the people that feed us, that provide our food, and we need them. And it's horrifying to see what they're trying to do to them.
Hey y'all, this is Hallie Schaffner, the 6th generation farmer running for the U.S. Senate here in Arkansas to unseat Tom Cotton. Today we are closing out the third quarter, and I just want to say thank you. This campaign is powered by real Arkansans who want real change. But we're not finished yet. To finish strong, I need your help. If you haven't yet, give today. And drop a comment below to tell me where you're from. I want to see how far our movement reaches. Together we're proving people power beats big money. Let's do this.
Starting to say, I never thought that voting for Trump 3 times would result in me losing tens of thousands of dollars. A beekeeper out of North Carolina says, yeah, I proudly voted for Trump all 3 times. I flew flags for him and put signs for him in the yard. But now I'm out tens of thousands of dollars due to lost federal funding and tariffs, so I cannot export my products, my honey and my wax, to other countries like I could before, and nobody's buying it in the United States. Hay producers in Idaho and Utah that export alfalfa hay to China are now seeing 135% tariffs put on their product, and all of a sudden, they don't have anywhere to ship it. They held it all winter in hopes of sending it off to China in the spring, and now China's not willing to buy. Soybean producers are once again being hit harder than they were in the first Trump administration, and China, for its part, has diversified where it pulls these products from, with Brazil becoming the #1 soybean exporter and other countries picking up the slack for honey, for beeswax, and for hay around the world. Now, China's doing a great...
U.S. farmers are regretting their vote for Donald Trump after their business suffers. Womp womp. Since China implemented their tariffs, farmers are suffering because soybean farmers, especially in the Midwest, are not being able to export as much as they're used to. I wonder why. Yet they voted for him anyway. They voted for him about 2 or 3 times, actually. I don't know how you thought voting for him would help you in your business when creating tariffs will probably hurt you. And he's said he's going to do this multiple times, but you know. Another example of Americans thinking that other parts of the world need them the most. Brazil is the #1 soybean import for China. They don't need the U.S. Brazil is steadily increasing the production year after year after year, while the U.S. has remained stagnant. And y'all thought Donald Trump getting in office will help y'all? You put somebody in office who directly hinders your business. I need these people to take a survey so I can understand why they make the decisions that they do. But again, womp womp. You put somebody in office because of reasons, and now you're paying the price because of those same reasons. You just thought they wouldn't affect you.
So the people who say no handouts just lined up for a handout. Now tell me why farmers in Arkansas are standing outside with their hands out again, begging Uncle Sam for money. See, when it's regular people struggling, rent too high, groceries too ridiculous, can't afford health care, the answer is always from these people, stop complaining, stop asking for handouts, and pull yourself up by your bootstrap. Farmers in Arkansas are crying out to the feds for stimulus money like it's open mic night. And look, I get it, because times are hard everywhere. But when you plant your crops, raise your cattle, take on the risks of farming, I mean, wasn't that a personal business decision? So why is it on me and you to make sure that that decision keeps paying out? Because see, when you and I make bad decisions, government doesn't cut us a check to make it right for us. Now, let's connect the dots here a little bit. These are the same people voting for the same politicians who say government is the problem. Yet as soon as the tractors stop running and their profits dry up, government magically turns into a solution for them. Ain't that funny and ironic? The question is, do we owe farmers any help? Or do they need to practice what they preach? Figure it out. Tighten that belt. Leave taxpayers out of it. Because last I checked, it's really not our problem to fix somebody else's gamble.